Okay, so we're going to be starting with Chapter 17. Chapter 17 is on human and health and environmental risks associated with that. It'll be very timely. All right. So, when we talk about human health and environmental risk, we're going to start with Module 56, and that's what this lecture will be on. After this module, we should be able to identify the different types of human diseases, understand the risk factors for human chronic diseases, discuss historically important human diseases, identify the major emergent infectious diseases, and discuss future challenges for improving human health. So there are different types of human diseases. A disease is any impaired function of the body with a characteristic set of symptoms. An infectious disease is a disease caused by a pathogen. Pathogens we talked about in the previous unit. An acute disease is a disease that rapidly impairs the functioning of an organism. It's something that's going to come on and attack very quickly, very strongly. These are the types of things that can kill or harm something right away. And then there's a chronic disease, and that's one that kind of stays in the body for a long time, damaging over a long period of time. So it slowly impairs the functioning of an organism. If we look at the leading causes of death in the world, more than 3/4 of all world deaths are caused by diseases, including respiratory and digestive diseases, various cancers, cardiovascular diseases, and infectious diseases. Among the world's deaths caused by infectious diseases, 94% are caused by only 6 types of diseases. So you can see a breakdown of those there. Good amount of the infectious diseases that we see are respiratory infections. That's what we're seeing currently with COVID-19. You can see HIV/AIDS as a big one. Diarrheal diseases is a huge issue in developing LEDCs. You got tuberculosis, malaria, which I'm sure you've heard a lot about, and then childhood diseases, and then other ones. Numerous risk factors exist for chronic risk factors in humans. In low-income countries, the top risk factors leading to chronic disease are associated with poverty, including unsafe drinking water, poor sanitation, and malnutrition. These lead to a lot of the, so this is in LEDCs, this is going to lead to a lot of those digestive diarrheal diseases that don't let the body retain water. Risk factors for chronic disease in high-income countries. So in MEDCs, a lot of the things that lead to disease are things that we consume, that we can afford to consume type of thing, that are dangerous, like tobacco. Less active lifestyles, which lead to obesity, overeating, poor nutrition, and so all those things lead to high blood pressure and obesity. If we look at the chronic risk factors in humans, the blue on the graph up here are LEDCs and the pink are MEDCs. So you can definitely see a stark difference in things like high blood pressure and tobacco use, high blood glucose, physical inactivity, overweight and obesity. Those are MEDC problems. LEDC problems are going to be you're underweight, indoor smoke from solid fuels, unsafe water, poor sanitation hygiene, things like that, things that are related to the non-availability of certain necessities that we have in MEDCs. Some infectious diseases have been historically important. So a lot of environmental scientists are interested in diseases that have environmental causes. So what are some things caused by actual things that are out in the environment? So especially those caused by pathogens like fungi, bacteria, and viruses. So the pathways of transmitting the pathogens, how do they transmit from do they just transmit from other humans, or can they go through the air? Can they come from our food? Can it come from a wild animal like the plague? Can it come from domestic animals like livestock and pets? If you remember the swine flu from 2009, it was named swine flu because it came from pigs. They think the current COVID-19 may have its origins in bats. So there's a bunch of different ways that diseases can be transmitted to humans. So infectious diseases can be labeled as different things. So here's what they mean. So an epidemic is a situation where a pathogen causes an increase in a disease. So there may be a disease already there, it may be something brand new, but an epidemic is going to be a pathogen that has a rapid increase in the disease. So when does it turn into a pandemic like what we're seeing right now? That's what happens when an epidemic occurs over a large geographic region. So once COVID-19 got out of Wuhan, China, that's pretty much when they realized it was going to be a pandemic and labeled it as such because it basically became worldwide. The difference between that and so that was a virus. The difference between that is in the plague. So the plague, what's a plague, is an infectious disease caused by bacterium that's usually carried by fleas. Malaria is an infectious disease caused by one of several species of protists in the genus Plasmodium. And usually this is transmitted via mosquitoes. Definitely high rates of malaria in LEDCs. And tuberculosis, which you may see abbreviated as TB, is a highly contagious disease caused by the bacterium Mycobacterium tuberculosis that primarily infects the lungs and a lot of times will lead to death. If we look at tuberculosis, we definitely have, it was a big deal a long time ago. Not even that long ago. So if you look back in 1950, you saw 90,000 people with tuberculosis per year, with 20,000 people dying from it. And you can see we barely have nowadays any people dying from it in the United States. Now, this is the United States. People do still die from it in LEDCs a lot. But you can see our tuberculosis cases have decreased. And so it's gone to a, in the United States, which is this left-hand graph, it's gone from a disease that is basically we don't even talk about anymore in the United States, from one that was really bad. However, worldwide, still, you definitely had an increase. It's kind of leveled off over the years. The deaths have gone down due to medical advances in technology. However, you still have 1 million people dying from tuberculosis a year, especially in LEDCs. Emergent infectious diseases pose new risk to humans. These are a disease that has not been previously described or has not been common for at least 20 years. We can see the emergence of new diseases. Since the 1970s, new diseases or diseases that have been rare for more than 20 years have been appearing throughout the world at a rate of approximately 1 per year. So yes, COVID-19, the coronavirus, does count as an emergent infectious disease. As you can see, the other ones, this presentation was made not right now, so it doesn't have COVID-19 on there. But the H5N1 bird flu from the 2000s, mad cow disease was a big deal in England in the 1990s, HIV in the 1970s, 80s, 90s, cholera is a huge one in LEDCs. Ebola that comes and goes every so often. We had a little spike of it a few years back. West Nile virus, Lyme disease, and other ones that you can see on here. Emergent infectious diseases, HIV causes AIDS. We have done really well. It was a really big, it was an infectious disease caused by humans from the HIV virus, human immunodeficiency virus. And basically, it was when I was a kid in middle school, at least I remember this being huge. And it claimed a lot of lives. But we've been able to treat, it's hard to treat AIDS, which comes from HIV, But HIV is now very treatable, especially in MEDCs. The medicine is pretty expensive, but in MEDCs it becomes affordable to most people who get this, and so we are able to control the spread of HIV very well. Ebola is an infectious disease with high death rates caused by the Ebola virus, and that one has spread globally. Um, it it has definitely one of the worst diseases you could possibly get. I mean, pretty much people who get Ebola die. Um, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them, more than other infectious diseases. It is transmitted harder. It's harder to transmit than other ones like COVID-19, which is really easy to transmit. Um, Mad cow disease is a disease that, again, popped up in the 1990s in England, and it's a disease in which prions mutate into a deadly pathogen, slowly damage a cow's nervous system, and then this can be passed on to humans. And so what is a prion? That's a small beneficial protein that occasionally mutates into a pathogen. So that happened in the cows. People ate the meat, and they would get mad cow disease. Swine flu was back in 2009, and it was an actual type of flu caused by the H1N1 virus. And bird flu was another type of flu caused by the H5N1 virus. Severe acute respiratory syndrome, or SARS, is caused, and you see it up here, a type of flu caused by the coronavirus. So this SARS is the technical name for that classification. The one that we're currently seeing is SARS COVID-19. So there have been other SARS epidemics, but none near as widespread as COVID-19 is. And the West Nile virus is a virus that lives in hundreds of species of birds and is transmitted among birds by mosquitoes and then can transfer to humans via the birds and the mosquitoes. So human health faces a number of future challenges. LEDCs need improvements in nutrition, wider availability of clean drinking water, proper sanitation. MEDCs need to promote healthier lifestyle choices, such as increased physical activity, a balanced diet, limiting excess food consumption and tobacco use. And education is needed everywhere to reduce the spread of diseases like HIV, tuberculosis, and even the things that we're seeing with social or physical distancing, whatever you want to call it. We're seeing that in real time right now, and the effects of that as the virus moves throughout the world. So being educated on just how these things move, how bad it can be, but what we can do to prevent it is probably the best thing to reduce the harm that these things can cause. All right, so we'll be back for Module 57 on toxicology and chemical risks.